My name is Mrs. Platero. I am a first grade teacher at Tséhootsooí. I choose to teach here at Tséhootsooí because of the Navajo language, it being an immersion school and our goal being to revitalize the Diné language. Our students have been working for about 2 months to learn a new song, and it's one of Sharon Birch's songs where she talks about how she believes in Father Sky, Mother Earth, the mountains, and again, that song is a teaching in itself. I hope that I've made a difference in their lives as far as our language. I hope that I've touched them in one way or another, that they think my language is important. It's a very big, important part of our lives, and I can speak Navajo. I can be proud to be a Navajo person and still progress in the Western society. That's my biggest goal for my students here, that they're able to function in both worlds.
My name is Jennifer Gross. I work here at Tséhootsooí. I teach 3rd grade and I also teach 7th and 8th grade home economics. Kids are coming from a home where parents only speak English, and most of the parents want their kids to relearn the language because the parents feel like they've been cheated of the Diné language.
We're going to take you back to those years when it was the beginning of the Diné language program as it is here today. Yate she Betty Morian is she?
My name is Marie Arviso. I'm happy to be here to be a part of this remembering of a program that we had done back in the 87 at our Fort Defiance Elementary School. In 87, I had been a principal for a couple of years. Prior to that, we had a bilingual Title VII program. And while we were doing that, it was very difficult to convince teachers to give us portions of their classroom time.
At that time, as I remember, our school here really focused on English. I myself, I went into the classroom and I was emphasizing English, and I put my own language, Navajo language, in the back.
We were very fortunate to be able to hire Wayne. We were looking for someone who is so experienced with a lot of background and information, and that was what he had at Rock Point. He told us that, you know, another regular bilingual program is not going to work here. we are out of that stage of transitioning from Navajo to English.
Well, when I got to Fort Defiance, the first thing we did was to test the kids. And we found out of almost 150 kindergarten kids that we had 3 kids that you would say would be adequate speakers of 5-year-old Navajo. And we found, I think, 48 kids out of roughly 150 that had what we called latent ability in Navajo. They didn't necessarily able to say anything, or if they could only say a few words in Navajo. And then we went out to the parents to tell them, that we were thinking about running this kind of program. And what really surprised us, just bowled us over, we thought if we could get 24 kids, we could start one classroom. And out of these 48 parents, we ended up 46 of them signed up.
When this first began, the program, in its initial phases, a lot of parents and even teachers, our staff members, they were very skeptical and leery of bringing Navajo language into the classroom. And they thought it would be in the way, that we were somehow holding the children back.
No doubt about it, we were very, even ourselves, we were very leery and worried about the children, what we were really doing to them. Will they overcome, because they had to begin total Navajo at the beginning.
Wayne, he recruited me in first grade. He said, "Betty, you ought to try it." And I was so frantic because I said, "I don't know how to read and write Navajo." He said, "You learn with the children." He did workshops with us. He introduced us to different methods of teaching Indian language in the areas of science and math and reading. It seemed like all the content areas. And to think that we thought teaching Navajo language was just teaching the culture.
Right.
My name is Diné. I'm currently working at Tséhootsooi Elementary. With the Center for Diné Teacher Education, it gives a strong support, and I would suggest and I would recommend that program. It teaches you who you are, and it gives you that goal of having to know what you want to become, and it gives you strategies, and it teaches you a lot of things that you will be using inside a real classroom.
Teaching Navajo has got to involve getting the children to speak. Laura and Irene and I worked out something that we call, structural situational Navajo. But we started with Head Start, and we say, you're just simply going to have to take a single verb, like the verb to wash hands, and you teach one form today, and the next day you teach another form, and you contrast, the I form and the you form, and the next day you teach the he, she form, and you sort of build up 3 or 4 or 5, 6 forms of that verb. And you teach kids to do questions and statements and negations and corrections, and not just simply saying these things like a conjugation, but actually using them. Because you want this almost automatic, that the kids just sort of feel that this is what you say when I'm talking about myself. It isn't something that you think about, it's something that you you do automatically. And this is the difference between acquisition and learning.
For here, Diné Immersion, we have to create our own curriculum, still using the Arizona standard and translate most of our own English to Navajo. We use acting out plays for the classroom because some students do not understand what they're reading. When we get the reading, we act it out, and then we act it out again, some midpoint, and we act it out before the tests. And I asked them, do you understand the story now? They say yes.
Right now, my third graders are capable of using the technology to find resources and then receive information out from the internet. And from that, they're able to present that to a whole class or even the whole school.
During the early stages of the Navajo Immersion program, we did statewide testing, and a lot of parents and staff, administrators, even the board, we were getting comments about, well, they won't do so well. He or she must be from the immersion class. She didn't do well.
Yeah.
A lot of negative remarks were made, but after looking at our test scores, our Navajo immersion students were comparable to all the others and even above in some areas, especially I think it was in the areas of math that they were above overall at the third grade level. I always believed that the Navajo language utilized in the classroom does not interfere or slow down the child.
For community involvement on a daily basis as they did their curriculum, as they did their lessons. They would send home papers that they might have to work on. Like they would do some writing throughout the day, all in Navajo, of course. And then they would ask the child to take that home, speak with somebody about it. And every day, the parents were asked, you talk with your child in Navajo. If you don't have a person in your immediate home, family, ask a grandmother, ask a friend, just so they get some conversation going with someone in Navajo, and that was a plus. Every grading period prior to that, or just a little after that, pull all those parents together, and the teachers would demonstrate to them the things that they've learned, how they taught those specific content. And they packed our classroom every time. They really responded to that.
Some of it was done on like a monthly basis, and we would set up an area with a table, and each one of us, each teacher would get up there with her students and say, "This is what I do. This is how I teach, and this is what my kids are learning." And we would have an audience of parents and grandparents. And it started small, but eventually we would pack the cafeteria with parents and visitors wanting to know, what were we doing with teaching Navajo language?
Overall, in general, parents are very supportive of their child learning their Navajo language, learning their heritage language, because a lot of the parents indicate that they're not able to teach their children their language at home, so they rely on us heavily and our school to carry on the language.
The primary thing that came out of all of this was accepting the Navajo-ness, being who you are and your identity. And it did give confidence to the children. It didn't matter to them one bit anymore that they were laughed at. Now it all turned around, they were flaunting it, that they can speak the language and say things, in Navajo. The teachers, I think, really, truly felt success in their teaching. It was a highlight for them. And it did put a sense of pride in we Navajos.
I used to say, years ago, it's not that we're trying to have every kid come back to Rock Point to do things for Rock Point. He says, what we want is for our kids to be able to make their own decision. And he said, no, they really don't have a decision. Some people don't have the abilities to leave, and some people don't have the abilities to stay. Developing kids' abilities in Navajo beyond just conversational Navajo is a way of being sure that the options are kept open, that kids can really choose what things they're going to do and where they're going to do them.
They compliment themselves when they speak the Diné language, and they know not to speak English. If they hear someone speaking English, they will just blare out their name so loud and say, Diné Teacher. That's all you speak is Diné Teacher. There's nobody that is ashamed to speak the language here. Everybody just wants to be who they are when they come here.